Commission, where she served as Deputy Director. She is an active member of the Association of Real Estate Licensed Law Officials, currently serving as their president-elect, and has nearly a decade of experience as a realtor. And finally, we are joined by Zach Burr, AREC's Assistant General Counsel. In his role, Mr. Burr provides essential legal guidance to the Commission, overseeing compliance and ensuring the smooth operation of regulatory matters. He is directly involved in auditing and case management and serves as the Commission's red tape reduction coordinator. We are honored to have these three leaders who are instrumental in guiding the real estate profession across the state. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you. Well, good morning, HAAR. How are you? Wow, good morning. How are you? I would think you all would be overly excited. I heard some great news the other day about things that are coming to Huntsville. So you all are about to be very, very busy. Congratulations on that again. We're always honored to come up and talk to you all. This is a very, very active board, and you have a lot of different business models that are at play here. The commission is a service agency. I came to you all a few years ago when I first took this post, and I explained that I wanted to be of service to you. And so I think we've gotten that done over the past few years. That's part of our core mission, is to listen to you all to see what changes we need to make in Montgomery so that we're not impeding what you're doing, we're helping. So I think we've done that with our last flurry of legislation, which we're going to talk about today. Currently, the Real Estate Commission has issued about 49,000 real estate licenses. That number will decrease at the end of this month because, as you all know, folks will lapse out this September 30th. So if you have any practitioners out there who have not renewed from the last cycle, they do have until September 30th to renew before they lapse out. Once they lapse out, that there is no more. You start over from scratch, class 1, day 1. So if you know anyone out there that wants to partake in the business that's about to come up here, please communicate with them. If they're lapsed or they're out there, they're undecided, it's probably going to be worth it to come back into the fold. Again, I have two of our staff members with me today. We're going to talk about recent legislation, but more importantly, we love to have conversations with you all. We could talk for about 3 or 4 hours about bills and how things happen, etc., but we need to hear from you. We're not omniscient. We're not a deity of any sort. We listen. We go back to Montgomery. I talk to my 9 commissioners, and we change things, or we fix things. Hopefully, we don't break a lot of things. But I will say this, and especially in this group, we worked across the table with your state association to get legislation passed this past session. That's how it happened. It was literally a very, very high-level negotiation there in the State House. Your CEO and General Counsel were there. I was there with the cadre of my attorneys, and we carved out what you all see and the current license law changes. So it was, in fact, a team effort in the end. We're grateful for that. We're regulators, and so we see the practice differently than you all do, but by the same token, we never want to be an impediment. The Alabama Real Estate Commission is 92 years old. We've done something right. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So I think that happens because of our engagement with you all. If at any point you feel that you're not getting something you need from the commission, call us. If you call my office in Montgomery right now, this phone rings. That's how connected I am. You don't get voicemail, you don't get a staff member. This phone rings, I see the number, we have a conversation. I work for you all, so you have to talk to me, but I don't know what I don't know. And trust me, I have all sorts of calls that come in from, she took my sign, to she, trust me, I get it. I get it all. And it's at 9 at night. They're checking their signs and someone took it and they think it's their competitor next door. Oh, no, it's the kid next door. They're making posters for school. But anyway, so we'll get into the meat and potatoes of why we're here. I'll let our other folks talk a bit. I just wanted to engage with you all because it's always a pleasure to come here and see former Commissioner Steve there, still laughing, which I miss. But we're there to serve you all. Let us know how we can help. The commissioner for this area is Emmett Barron, Gateway Realty in Decatur. So Emmett's your representative on the bench. If you have local issues and local concerns, reach out to your commissioner. They're not appointed by the governor just to sit on a stoop in Montgomery. They're elected and appointed to represent you all in a greater body. We've got 9 commissioners, each from a congressional district. One is a minority at large, and the other is a consumer at large. So everyone has a voice on that commission, but you have to use those folks and don't just allow them to sit there, for 5 or 10 years and not really engage with you and engage with us. I say that because I've been a commissioner. I know what it's like to get those phone calls, and I didn't have most of the answers, but I had Steve, so I was okay. But again, always call if you have questions. We're there to serve and be of service. With that, I will turn it over to Wendy for a moment, and then we'll get into probably what you all want to hear.
So good. They don't want to hear from me. Okay, good to know. Good to know. So good morning, everyone. I will be honest with you. This is my first time up here in your beautiful city. So thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you this morning. I do want to play a little bit off of what Vaughn was saying. If you have questions or if you're interested in all of the changes that are coming up in the law, our staff is really trying to do as much outreach as possible. We are creating flyers. We are doing social media posts. We are sending out mass emails. We are trying to do everything we can to give you the tools that you need in order to stay compliant. Because, to be honest with you, it's easier if you guys do the things that are required under the law, then, we have less paperwork on our desk. So we like that, especially Vaughn, because he doesn't like paper. So, but anyway, so make sure you're going to our website, looking at the things that we've designed for you. These are tools that we're trying to give you to help you. And if you see something on there that doesn't make sense or you want more information on it, please do reach out to us. We do want to help you understand what you need to do to make your business better. So with that, Zach?
Good morning. Want to thank all of you for coming. So what we most want to speak to you all about is that we had 3 big legislative bills that passed this year, and they go into effect at different times. And so we'll just go in chronological order and talk about the changes that have been made. The first bill went into effect on April 18th of this year, so it's already into effect. And it changed, it discussed 3 forms, the form that you all are familiar with, the RECAD form. It really didn't make any changes to RECAD. It said that it clarified that you have to provide that RECAD form prior to performing any brokerage services, which would include showing a home. That was the way that the law was previously worded, as soon as possible. And so we at the commission interpreted it as before you provide any brokerage services. But this clarifies that it is prior to showing a home or performing any brokerage services. So really not a substantive change to the RECAD form, but the agency disclosure office policy, there were some substantive changes to it. You all have always had to have an office policy. Every brokerage has to have an office policy, and the office policy says I want to clarify, there's a difference between an office policy and your agency disclosure office policy. In your office policy, you could have something like, please wipe your feet before you walk into the door. That's not the smaller part of the office policy would be the agency disclosure office policy, which says, what services does your brokerage offer to consumers? And the new law says that in that policy that your agents have to sign every year, it also has to have general terms about how the company will be compensated for providing services. It doesn't have to say specifically, we get paid 3% or 2%, or we're a flat fee company that charges, $1,000 per transaction or whatever. It doesn't have to be that definite, but it does have to have general information about how the company gets paid for providing its services. And the big change regarding that form is now not only does it have to be signed by all of the licensees every year, but it also has to be provided to the consumers at the same time that you provide that RECAD form to them. They, just like the RECAD form, they don't have to sign it, but if they don't sign it, you should document that you provided it to them. The law requires you to provide it to them. The best way you can prove that you provided it to them is to have them sign it.
Can I stop for just a second there? And that's really important. You know, real estate has changed. You know, I think everyone assumed for a long time that the seller always paid the commission, and that has changed. And there's a lot of confusion out there, not only with licensees, but also with consumers who are using the services that you provide. And so the thought is to make sure that those buyers and sellers understand how it's going to work for them in their real estate transaction. It's going to make a big difference on the bottom line number for some of those buyers and sellers. And so they really need to know way before they get into coming up with an offer amount on a property, they need to understand that those fees may affect their bottom line. So, sorry.
Okay. And if any of y'all have any questions while we're talking, just go ahead and pop up and ask the question, or we can also take questions at the end. But if you have one now, shoot, you have one. That was, no, I think it was, 20, it was Acts 2025-59. It might have been 230 or it might have been 225.
That was
Can't remember.
230.
It was 230. Okay,
225 is dedication.
that's
I
right.
think you had a question.
Just to clarify, the office policy is, as well as the RECAD, is to be provided or shown to our consumers.
Right, before you provide any services to them.
Perfect.
Office policy. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, so the third form that the bill mentioned is the brokerage agreement. A brokerage agreement would, a listing agreement would be a brokerage agreement, a buyer's agency agreement would be a brokerage agreement, or a transaction brokerage agreement is also a brokerage agreement. But when it now in your brokerage agreement, which says these are the services that we are agreeing to provide to this particular consumer, it has to have the actual information about how you're compensated, but how you're going to be compensated by that consumer for that specific transaction. And that has to be provided when you're representing the buyer. It has to be provided to them, and you have to go ahead and execute the document prior to submitting an offer to purchase on behalf of the consumer. And if you're representing the seller, it has to be executed prior to it's the actual listing agreement. So prior to listing the property, you have to have them sign it. Do we have any questions about the brokerage agreement?
But I have had some people say, done two more agreements. I've been told that you can't, so. Obviously, we do know that. So what is the clarification on it? Is it?
We don't have any rules that prevent it, so
So
we'd be fine with it. Yes.
like any other negotiation.
Yes. It does not. It's only the RECAD and agency disclosure office policy that has to be provided to them prior to showing. But prior to submitting the offer on behalf of the buyer, then you would have to have the brokerage agreement signed.
And there could be brokers that have that as an office policy. There's nothing that would prohibit a broker from having that be in their policy, that they want the agreement to be signed prior to the showing of a property. You can't have a policy that would conflict with law, so you couldn't say, well, it doesn't have to be before the offer, because that's when the law says it has to be. But if a broker wants to have that before that required timeline, that certainly can be something the broker requires.
So that moves us to the bill that will go into effect on October 1st. So it makes more changes into that RECAD area, but first we'll talk about out-of-state co-brokerage agreements. Previously, there was no limit to the amount of brokerage agreements that an out-of-state broker could enter into with an in-state broker. So this new law states that an out-of-state broker can only have 3 transactions per year or a maximum of $50 million worth of transactions in a given year. If they exceed that amount, then they would have to get a license. So the point is, if you're going to be doing that much business in our state, you need to be licensed in our state instead of just using a co-brokerage agreement to transact business in our state. The next significant change is that violations, if you commit a license law violation, currently the maximum amount we can fine you per violation is $2,500, and that number is now going to go up to $5,000
Per account.
So one of the things that we're most excited about at the commission is there's been changes to the law regarding providing a bad check to the commission. So previously, if you wrote a bad check or accidentally entered a check number when paying your license fees, if you entered the wrong number of your checkbook, if you're submitting an e-check into this system, it was a bad check, and you would get a violation against you, and we would have to bring you to the commission or file a formal complaint against you and process the violation that way. Now, if you submit a bad check to us, you have 30 days to make it right. If you don't make it right, your license becomes automatically inactive. We contact people to let you know, hey, your payment didn't process, and during that 30-day window, there'll be significant notifications, but it's no longer a violation. It's just you got 30 days to make it right, or else your license is going to go inactive. Then,
Zach, if I can interject on that one. So I want you all to understand what we try to do here. During a renewal cycle, we have a few hundred bounce checks, a few hundred each cycle. And in an education year, we have bad checks as well. I understand that things happen, and we're trying to be very logical and practical here. However, if you bounce a check to the state of Alabama, there are some consequences there. But what we're doing, unfortunately, we're spending a lot of our resources on bounce checks. We didn't really want to per se bring you all to Montgomery for a bounce check, but the law stated we had to. We didn't have a choice. Well, now we do. It'll be handled in-house, and we can take care of that. But I would ask you all to just communicate with your peers, and if they're going to write a check, don't float a check to the state. Just don't. We have that happen, and people say, well, I put it in the mail 3 days ago. Why'd you do that? Well, I knew I'd get paid on Friday when I had a closing, and I'd put the money in the bank on Saturday, and it would catch the check on Monday. And then something happens, and then you get a letter from me. So just don't float a check.
yeah. So yeah, if you submit the bad check, if you don't make the payment in 30 days, your license goes inactive, and then if you don't make the payment within 6 months, you lose your license. So that's the way that the law will work now. The next changes I'm going to speak about touch on recap, and I want you all to be expecting an email from us around the 16th of September. So what's that, a week or two from now? We will be sending y'all the new RECAD form. So there will be a new RECAD form that will go into effect October 1. I want everyone not to use it between the date that we provide it and October 1, because the old one will control until October 1. So it'll be overnight. Now you got to use the new form.
It will also be available on our website.
Right.
We just need to make sure that if you're providing it if you're a broker and you have licensees underneath you, they really need to understand that timeline. And the big thing is October 1st moving forward, they really need to make sure if they have those old forms saved somewhere, make sure they get rid of them. I don't know if this has happened to you, but it's happened to me many times when all of a sudden this old form comes up and you're like, where did this copy come from? So we need to make sure that we're getting rid of those after October 1st and using the new form. It's a significant change.
So the reasons for the new forms are because there are terms that the law changed, like sub-agency will no longer exist effective October 1.
It's okay to be excited.
Yes, we are too. We are too. Like,
Took
what's
us a
the
long
name?
time to get this done.
The term transaction broker will now be transaction facilitator, and it means the same thing. It's just to let consumers kind of have a better idea of what that person, the services they're providing to them versus, so it's just a change in terminology. Then the significant change that I think this bill touched in RECAD is that there is no longer what was limited consensual dual agency. Now there will be designated single agency. So if different licensees within the same company represent, if they represent more than one side of the transaction, so one side has the buyer, one side has the seller, the broker now can, in writing, designate them as single agents and say, okay, we're working both sides of the deal. Y'all are designated single agents. You don't share confidential information. You don't have to get consent from the clients to do like the limited consensual dual agency. Now, if you're as an individual, if you're representing both sides yourself, you do have to have them sign a written consent still to represent them as a dual agent. It's no longer called a limited consensual dual agent. It's just called a dual agent. So the RECAD form will make that clear. And then we're also changing the rule about the office policy to also edit these terms so that they're now effective October 1. Another change that you all may have you might not even have known this was illegal because it shouldn't have been. So that's why we changed the law. It used to be that you could not meet a consumer at an office where you were not licensed. So if your company had a branch in another location and you met a consumer there, it was a violation because you were making use of another office that was not your office. So we have changed that to say that you can meet a consumer in an office that's licensed underneath your company's qualifying broker, no matter where that office is, as long as it's a licensed branch office. Then, go ahead. Question.
We can't hear you.
Could you say that again? Because you can only be licensed in one address.
That's correct. But even though you can only be licensed in one address, we're now saying that you can meet a consumer at that other branch location. Even though you're licensed at a different branch, if it's underneath your company's qualifying broker, you can meet them there.
And think about it being, it's more convenient for the consumer is, the thought. We want to make sure that consumers are able to meet with their licensees and they don't have to drive 30 extra minutes because they work on a different side of town. And so really it's trying to make it easier for your consumers and just putting that logic in that your broker is still in charge of that office. You may not work there on a regular basis, but your broker can allow you to go over there and meet someone, to make sure that
another
the paperwork-
broker's office.
I'm sorry?
That would be another broker's office. So your broker is saying you can go meet somebody at another broker's office.
If
Within the
your
same
company
company.
has multiple branches,
Right.
you have branch brokers and then you have a company broker.
Gotcha.
So you can meet someone that's licensed. You can meet at any branch that falls underneath that company's qualifying broker.
It's nuanced. It sounds nuanced, but believe it or not, we had commissioners who were not aware because it's such a thing, You think my company is X company, right? I've got 6 branches in Huntsville. I can conduct business at any of those branches, right? No, not prior to this. But it wasn't an issue, but it needed to be fixed for clarification. Because we did have some individuals who were setting up other branch offices only to conduct business there once or twice per month. Why? That's a waste of resources. So we simplified that, and I think this is a great move.
And I'm glad you brought up your question because to clarify that we're talking about the qualifying brokers, branches. So if you work, and I'm just picking names out of the air here. So if you work for Remax, you can't go use an office for, ABC Real Estate. It has to be a branch of your qualifying broker.
So
Because you would be working that would be the supervision of that broker. You can't work for a different broker. So you can't go into someone else's office that you're not under them.
I walk in other agencies' doorway. You're telling me I cannot work in that office?
So the idea is if you're meeting consumers at an office, they need to know what office it is that you're licensed and where you're licensed. So we don't want someone to go meet at a brokerage that's not their brokerage, and their consumer has no idea that that's not really where they work. So yes, you can meet someone at Starbucks. They're aware that you're not a licensee under Starbucks.
Yeah.
Although, wouldn't that be convenient? No, I mean, I'd love to, I want to work. Can I work? That'd be great. I love their lattes.
The next significant change is, for the first time ever, license law recognizes teams and defines what teams are and puts some rules around teams. The idea is that you can only be a licensee, can only be a member of one team unless it's the qualifying broker. The qualifying broker can obviously be in more than one team, but the other licensees can only be members of one team. There has to be a person that's designated as the team leader. The team leader has to maintain a list of the members of the team, and they have to provide that list to the qualifying broker. So if your company has teams, you need to be aware that when we do an audit after October 1, we're going to be asking for the list of your teams, team names, who the team leaders are, and who's in that team currently. So that'll be something that's asked for during the audit. There are some advertising rules concerning teams. If you're a team and you advertise that team publicly, your team name has to include either the word team or group, and it can't include any words that make it appear that the team is a business entity, such as corporation or limited liability company. So that the idea of that is not to mislead the consumer into thinking that the team is the company. So it has to be clear that the team is a team and it's a division of the company. When you advertise a team, you need to be aware that the company's name still has to appear prominently on the sign. So the company's name still has to be featured as the largest font on the sign or the advertisement. You can't just use the team name on the advertisement.
Question?
I wanted to jump in here. I wanted to make sure that if there's any, I don't know how many of you are qualifying brokers in here, but if you are a qualifying broker and you have teams that work underneath you, I would really get started on this right away. There is no such thing as I had my team before, so I'm grandfathered in. That's not a thing. Once the law changes, and we understand that this is going to be potentially expensive to someone who's running a team name that doesn't have group in it, or their font sizes aren't correct. And so if I was a qualifying broker and I had teams under me, I'd be having some serious team meetings and making sure that they fully understand they have to have a list. Who's the team leader? When people leave the team, the broker needs to make sure they're aware of it. I mean, all of these things are going to be very different. And a lot of times when a change like this comes along, you'll have licensees that say, oh, but I started my team 3 years ago, and so I'm good. They don't understand maybe that, yes, this does affect you. There is no grandfathered time frame, October 1. Now, we do understand at the commission that it's going to take a little bit of time to get some of those things, and we'll try to work with people as much as possible. But we're really relying on these qualifying brokers to get the word out and to make sure that the changes are being made. Not only does it affect your team, but it affects the qualifying broker too, because you have that requirement to supervise and specifically supervise advertising.
So the team name, the team name generally shouldn't be the same as the company name, because the company name would have something designating it as a business entity, most likely. But if the team name is the same as the company name, it's not really a team.
Right. So I'm thinking you wouldn't have.
It's just a part of it's just part of the company. Right?
That's interesting.
On social media, if there is a logo of the team, does it have to have the company name? Let's say it's in the cover page. Does it have to have the company name, or is it okay to just post that
It
that
needs to,
team logo.
it needs to have the company name, and the last requirement that we didn't mention is that any advertisement also for a team must also include at least one member's name of the team.
On the logo?
Not the logo, but wherever you're advertising it,
Got it.
it needs to be, with it. So if that makes sense, if the logo's somewhere on that advertisement, there also needs to be the team. Obviously, you're going to have the team name if you're advertising the team, but it has to have the company's name, and it has to have at least identify at least who one member of the team is.
Can you give me an example? So PB and Company Real Estate Team. Where do you want the name?
The name of the team,
The person.
the name of the person. There's no distinction about where the name of the person is. It could be anywhere within
Got
it.
it. Okay.
Right? Right. Yes. Our education materials will clarify that. Yes. Okay. That takes us to the. Oh, go ahead.
So I'll segue real quick. I think I forgot something earlier, and that was to tell you all thank you. Guess where all of this came from? All of the content that we put into legislation. It came from task forces that you all sat on. Some of your members worked very closely with us to find out what was needed and how we could best get those things accomplished. And so I wanted to say thank you. Secondarily, what you're going to notice in this batch of license law is that we're trying to transition. We are state government, and yeah, we're here to help, but things in Montgomery move at a different pace than they do up here. I'll say that. We're trying our best to catch up with the practice. I talk about that a lot when I'm here because I do understand what you all are doing every day. But right now, we're not addressing Bitcoin, the blockchain, and how that interferes and interfaces with real estate. We're not talking about the metaverse yet. We're still talking about bad checks. I'm moving as fast as I can to work with our commissioners to get some of these changes done. But case in point, if you listen to teams and then brokerage visitation, a lot of what's in current license law was written from the standpoint of a brick and mortar, period. And it was written to tie licensees to a physical location. That's not how the practice works anymore. The largest real estate company in the state of Alabama is a VO, virtual office, period. And that is just one of several that are here and will be coming in years to come, will be developing in years to come, pardon me. And so we understand that at the commission, but change happens sort of like molasses in Alaska. It's not moving very fast, but we're trying to get there. I think we have a very, very good group of commissioners now that understand that. Even in their practices, they're now getting folks that are like, hey, can I buy land with my Bitcoin? And they're saying, well, what's a Bitcoin? And then they have to have that conversation. We don't want to put too much out there on licensees at one time, but we can't sit still because the industry is gone. It's not moving, it's already gone, and we're catching up. So I think we've made some great strides here, but just keep in mind when you hear a lot of these things, they've been that way for 30 or 40 years. And fortunately, we were able to get this legislation passed during the past session to at least try to update some things. We've got some things that we were not able to get done. Nobody walked away, victorious over the other person in that negotiation, but I wanted to do something with wholesaling. And I plan to address that again later. So as you all have these concerns out there, even as you're listening to the changes that have already been made, communicate with us because we don't want to be the impediment to what you're doing out there. You all are eating off of your licenses in some case. You're feeding your families. You're paying your mortgage. You're sending your kids to college. We don't want to be in the way of that, but we need to understand what's out there because our primary function is consumer protection, period. We are a business-friendly agency, but we're there to protect the public. And for those of you that have ever attended a commission hearing, we're needed. We're needed. So I think when Zach wraps up, I'm going to have Wendy, if she doesn't mind, talk a little bit about broker supervision. Again, I was here a few years ago and we instituted broker supervision rules, but even today I've got QBs of medium-sized companies who are not aware. And so what you're going to start to see a lot more of on the docket before commissioners are broker supervision failures. A lot of agents are making mistakes out there because they have an absentee broker. So we're going to try to rectify that.
Yeah, so along that same lines, on October 1st of 2028, so 3 years from now, there will be significant education enhancements. So what will happen on October 1st, 2028, previously when a salesperson took that exam after they took the pre-license course, they could go ahead and get a temporary license. In 2028, before getting the temporary license, they will also, once they pass the exam, they will have to complete a 60-hour salesperson pre-license 2 course, which is on professional development. And then they can apply and get their temporary license. So it's first take the pre-license 1 60-hour course, then take the exam and pass it, and then take a 60-hour sales license, a pre-license course on professional development. At that point, they can get their temporary license, but when they get their temporary license, they will really have to be under the apprenticeship of either a broker or under the guidance of a salesperson who's been actively licensed for the past 5 years. Before that apprenticeship requirement is removed, they will, in order to get it removed, they have to complete a 15-hour orientation in a specific area of real estate. In other words, residential, commercial, property management. Hopefully, in whatever it is that they want to practice, they'll take the 15-hour course in that area. And then their qualifying broker will do a core competencies checklist to check off that they're competent in the areas that they'll be practicing in. And at that point, they can apply for their original salesperson license and be a salesperson. So it's much more enhanced than what we currently have.
Are there any questions about what Zach just stated? That was a lot. War Eagle.
That's what we're coming to.
Well, no. It's not going to be harder. It's going to be more intuitive.
Other questions about salespeople?
Yeah, this is just the salesperson's portion.
Yeah.
There's a set of broker requirements as well.
Yeah. So along the same lines, in order to become an associate broker, so just as previously, you had to be licensed as a salesperson for at least 24 of the last 36 months, and then you take your broker's test. But once you pass that broker's test, you will now have 180 days to complete the 60-hour broker license 2 course, which is a professional development course. And then within 90 days of completing that, you apply for your broker license. But that doesn't get you to becoming a qualifying broker yet. In order to become a qualifying broker, you have to be actively licensed for 24 of the last 36 months as an associate broker. So you can't just go from being a salesperson straight to being a qualifying broker. You will have to have been an associate broker for 24 of the last 36 months.
Questions?
And I just want to make sure everybody heard Zach when he started this. These changes do not go into effect until 2028. Is that correct?
Could
Did I
you,
say that right? That sounds like so long from now, but 2028. And so I don't want anybody going out there and saying, oh my gosh, we have these new rules. We have some time before they go into effect. Yes.
There's not.
Great question. He asked if there was any transaction requirements. So did you have to have so many transactions in that time period while you're an associate broker before you can become a qualifying broker? That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. But you would have to be an associate broker for, was it
24 of the last 36 months. So we have contemplated it through task force, but there's very differing opinions, and then it's very different between an area like Huntsville and then an area like Thomasville, Alabama, where there's, maybe 100 houses in the whole 25-mile radius. So it's hard to say you had to do this number of transactions, and what qualifies as a transaction, property management, how many houses do you have to rent, how much does that equate to one sale? And so we haven't been able to work those details out. There are some other states that are implementing that, and then as we see them do it, we'll probably look and see whether it's working and decide if we want to go there.
But keep in mind that this is a broker's conversation. For the salespersons, there are transactional requirements. There are. Yeah. And it's per sector of real estate. We tried to split things up because the practice is so different. So residential, commercial, property management, the one thing we were not able to accomplish was have land brokers written into it as well, because they're variably indifferent. They're not residential, they're not commercial, they're just selling dirt. But, do you want a confident person out there, trying to be a surveyor when they're not qualified to be one? Because we've had that a lot too.
Yes.
Could you refresh my memory? Because I haven't had an associate broker for a while. What is the delta in responsibility or what they can do between a salesperson, an associate broker, and then say a branch?
There is not a distinction between what an associate broker can do and a salesperson. It just gets you closer to being a qualifying broker.
Yeah, and we try to, there is some language in there that gives a qualifying broker the opportunity to designate some of those responsibilities. But again, that's going to be a QB's decision, because right now an associate broker is invariably a salesperson. But we want to make sure that brokers have the flexibility as things are changing to say, hey, I've got 800 agents and I need some segmentation here where we can empower some of these associate brokers that I have who may have some leadership prowess, but there was no process prior to make that person say the XO of a company. And so I think that's where we're heading with this. The problem came into play as we were discussing that along with teams. We thought that it would be prudent to try and make associate brokers like team leads, or a branch broker could be an associate broker, but there was some pushback on that. The commissioners made some correction and we went with their recommendation, but it's not something that's done. This is new law. And so we'll have to see how it plays out in reality, not in writing, but in reality. And if adjustments need to be made, we can come back later and say, okay, we may not have thought about this as deeply as we should have. Let's adjust this here or there. But for right now, we're trying to ease into things, and it may sound magnanimous, but these changes have been coming for about a decade. So it may sound nuanced and elder, but we've had it for a while. We're here now, and I think more adjustments will be made in the future.
And there's a lot of licensees that don't really necessarily want to be a qualifying broker, but they would like to have that broker title. They want to show that they've done the extra education, they've taken the extra tests, they've been a salesperson for a long period of time. And so the associate broker, although they may be not different, it's not that they can do different things under the law, but it definitely is recognized that they have typically a lot more experience than a salesperson because they do have that extra education.
On the salesperson side, you said that you have to check off as a broker some list of skills saying, yes, they've shown that. Will that be handled on the state website so I can log in and check the boxes there? Or do I have to have another form to keep up with and get audited on?
No, you'll be able to do it through our website.
Okay. And then likewise, I may have missed that. Did you say for an associate broker, they will also have a checklist?
No.
I don't think we made
Why not?
associate brokers.
There's not an associate brokers because really the associate broker again, they don't have enhanced responsibility. They're still acting as a salesperson, so
You're now opening the door. In 2 years you can become a broker, and I might think somebody's fine for a salesperson, but I don't know that I think they should be a broker.
Right. If they become a qualifying broker, then they're in another company.
But they're also a compatriot and I have to deal with them now.
You're right. That's correct. That's correct. It would be awesome if we could say you can sign off on who else gets to be qualifying brokers in your area.
Yeah. I mean, because there is a different level of expectation, skill set at that level too.
Correct.
So
yeah. The real nuts and bolts of this, to me, is that beginning in 2028, October 1st of 2028, it'll take you 4 years if you start from scratch and decide, I want to be a salesperson, and you get, from the day that you get your license as a salesperson until the day you become a qualifying broker, the fastest you'd be able to do that is 4 years. And then even once you have met that requirement, we are also going to require the qualifying broker to take a 15-hour course on strictly being a qualifying broker. So there's another course that goes from the associate broker level to the qualifying broker level. This test is not, there's not a test on this. This is just a course.
You would already have your broker's license.
Yes, you already
but
have the-
You would not have a test.
Can we assume that the qualifying broker will be grandfathered in at this
That-
2028?
That's correct. If you already have, if you're already a qualifying broker, then you're grandfathered into it. Same as the salespeople.
Yeah, this is for new people.
Yes.
So if anyone is not very academically acute, they may want to take the course before October 1st, 2028.
Get busy now.
I'm not telling them what to do, but if it were me, you know.
Okay, so I just want to revisit the team lead. So at this time, y'all are just thinking about revisiting the fact that they may need to get their broker's license? Because if they're running a team.
No.
Okay, so it's not going to be revisited?
Well,
It was our original idea to say that the team leader needed to be an associate broker.
yeah.
We received pushback on that, and then we just decided, no, you just designate a team leader. And that's-
The qualifying broker can choose who they want to be that team leader. And
Right.
It would be, if we leave it up to the broker to decide.
Okay, well, my thought process on it, not that y'all care, but I want to share this. So as a team lead, you know, they are obviously running the team, and the team is like chain of command. So the team member would go to the team lead hopefully is qualified enough to answer their questions, and then of course, then it would be the qualifying broker. I have seen in numerous cases where the team lead may not be quite as educated on certain subjects as they should,
So
and give the wrong advice. Obviously, it's still going to fall back on the qualifying broker's license. And as a qualifying broker, you know, you're doing your best, you know, due diligence to make sure everybody is lined up doing the right thing, but it may fall between the cracks on something. So where is, you know, the liability still, in my opinion, going? Go
So
ahead.
I'll answer that question. Everything rises and falls on leadership, right?
Absolutely.
Everything that happens at a real estate company is the responsibility of that qualifying broker, period. No commas, no exclamation points, nothing else. The qualifying broker is liable. And that's what we're trying to permeate to folks so they understand that you may allow your agents to go free willy out into the world, but at the end of the day, you are legally liable and responsible for everything they do or fail to do. So teams notwithstanding, who's a qualifying broker? Because that's what we're going to call.
And really, it's set up to protect the brokers because, you know, nobody wants to come in front of the real estate commission, but you also don't want to be named in a lawsuit. So, I mean, really think about the liability that you have for licensees that work under you. They're working under your company name, under you and your company name. And so if they're out there doing something wrong, yes, you might come in front of the commission and you might have some explaining to do on why you didn't know, but you also could be drug into court to explain how you didn't know something was going on when someone's working for your company. So really the commission is setting you up by saying, here's the things you have to do to supervise. We're really trying to give you those tools to make sure that you're protecting yourself, because it really is a huge responsibility that a qualifying broker has. And so you don't want to take that lightly. You want to make sure that you're fully understanding what it means when someone's out there using your name to conduct business.
Other questions?
So that took us through all of our license law changes, believe it or not. That's when we adopted rules regarding broker supervision, this was about a year or two ago. Wendy was at Kansas, and we looked at Kansas's broker supervision and copied their rule. It was pretty close to the same rule that Kansas had. We implemented it here in Alabama, and Wendy, do you want to go into more detail about broker supervision than you already have, or?
Either that, or I can answer questions about broker supervision if anyone has any.
Yeah, how many of you?
Qualified Is that where you were gonna ask? I hear. How many qualifying brokers do we have in the room?
Wow.
Okay, let's talk about broker supervision.
This is
So
awesome.
one of the things that I would recommend to every single one of you qualifying brokers is to go onto the website, pull up your roster of licensees, and make sure that every licensee working for you renewed their license. Because it's coming down to the wire to where they will lapse out and will no longer be able to renew their license. They would have to start from scratch as soon as October 1st comes along. And I know there's a lot of times that we want to trust the people that work for us. I'm a supervisor, so I know that trust and verify is a very good policy. So when you go to a licensee and you say, hey, I see you haven't renewed your license, renewal's coming up. Oh yeah, I got my CE done. I've already done all the steps. It's all taken care of. Okay, great. I don't have to worry about it anymore. That's not good enough. You really need to go on and verify that their license has been renewed. So many times licensees think they've renewed their license. They think they've gone through all the steps, and guess what? They took a wrong course and therefore their license couldn't be renewed. They thought they did it all, but for some reason it got held up. And as a qualifying broker, if you allow them to keep working while their license has not been renewed, now they're doing activity without a valid real estate license. Yes, sir. No. Well, yes. So we just went through renewal last year, right before I came to work for Alabama. So thank you for, letting me wait to do that, because I hear that's quite a challenge. But last October 1st was the end of the renewal cycle. There are a lot of licensees who did not renew their license, and even as of today have not renewed their license. So if you're a qualifying broker and you have licensees that work for you, go make sure that their license has been renewed. It's very quick and easy. You go on the website, it gives you a list. If you have 20 agents working for you and there's 19 people on that list, we need to figure out who's missing and make sure that they renew their license.
She's saying that because if you don't renew, your license will lapse October 1.
This October, if somebody has not renewed their license last October, then October 1st of this year, they will no longer have a license they can renew. They would have to start over as a new salesperson, going through the tests, the fingerprints, all of it. So that.
If they could have renewed, but renewed inactively.
And the caveat of that, and part of the painful call, not really painful, but just not pleasant call that I have to make is to qualifying brokers who've not renewed their license, and all of their agents are about to float away. Because it happens each cycle, and those are the calls that Wendy and I make because we want to make sure that our qualifying brokers are being good qualifying brokers for one. And unfortunately, at times we get pushback. I'm busy. I don't have time. You've got 30 agents and they're depending on you to be a good qualifying broker. And we're having this conversation.
Or many times they think they renewed. So you're like, what? Why are you calling me?
Yeah.
You've got the wrong person. No, really, it happens more than more than I care to share.
But
It
you all
happens a
do
lot.
understand that, right? That if a qualifying broker's license lapses out or is not renewed, all agents under that license go with. And we've had agents call the commission angry because they're inactive or they have issues with their license because their qualifying broker didn't renew their license on time.
Yes, sir.
No, that's a renewed license.
That's a renewed license, but if somebody did not renew their license, they will not show under you. So you have to make sure, you just have to make sure someone's not missing.
Yes, sir.
Because it wouldn't say 2024, or it wouldn't tell you that the date has already passed. They just fall off your list. So you just have to make sure that everybody's on there. Yeah, and if anybody needs help doing that, our staff would be more than happy to walk you through how you pull your list up to make sure that you can do that. The other thing I want to mention is we do have some issues with unlicensed assistants and staff for the brokerages crossing over into activity that requires a license. So as a qualifying broker, make sure you're having those conversations with anyone that does not have a license but has some relationship to your office. So either they're, a transaction coordinator or they're, you can do that here, right? sorry, I need to check. If they're doing some kind of activity for your office, but they're not licensed, just make sure that they understand where that threshold is, what you will allow them to do and not do since they're not licensed.
We have a list on our website. If you just hit into the search box, unlicensed assistants, and it'll tell you all the things that an unlicensed assistant can do and the things that they cannot do.
And again, this is a question of liability.
Absolutely.
I have a question on age, like, what, is it just a market side or?
That's exactly right. Mhm. Yes. Exactly. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that question. The a team is not a team by statutory definition unless they're advertising to the general public as a team. So if you're just in the office and y'all refer to yourselves as a team and collaborate as 4 or 5 agents, then we don't consider that a team, and you don't have to keep up with that team name and or the team members. It's only if they're displaying themselves to the public as a team that you have to register with the qualifying broker as a team.
So you're not a team. And even your social media is both pictures, both faces, but there's no team. Is that okay?
That's okay.
You can do that because you'd still have the brokerage name on
Yeah, the
there. so
brokerage
that's
name
separate.
is on there. There's no team.
Mhm.
It's just as qualifying broker, you're helping out an agent, giving them publicity on billboards, social media. But you're putting their face with all of the social media that's going on. So it's not a team though.
And that's fine. You can absolutely do that. It's when you add that team name is when it starts kicking in all of the other requirements.
And talking, go ahead.
So I have an agent who listed their own property and the buyer was not represented by an agent. And okay, let me get this together. Okay, buyer wasn't represented. My agent felt that there was no need to recad. I called the commission, you guys were busy. I called HAAR and Jay advised that I called the commission. For risk management, I still made her do the recad and all the forms. Was that proper? And what would you do if there was an agent who had a listing in the office and also represented a buyer who's not being represented? Would you still recad?
Or were you saying the agent was doing a for sale by owner of the agent's property?
She listed her property. This is in Montgomery. She listed a property in Tuscaloosa, actually. Tuskegee. And it was her property. She was part owner. And the buyer that came, the investor that came to purchase the property was not being represented. Does she still recad that person?
She doesn't have to unless she's providing services to that person.
Got it.
So, for instance, before I started working for the real estate commission, I went and bought a property on my own behalf. I was a lawyer, so I drew up a contract, I drew up the offer, the purchase agreement, and I provided it to the listing agent. And they wanted me to sign something saying they were representing me, and no, I'm representing myself. And then sign the recad form. No, I'm not. I'm not. You're not providing me any services. I'm really handling it on my own. So if you get a sophisticated buyer that can draft the addendums or purchase agreements themselves and provide them to you, then you wouldn't have to recad them. The moment that you start working as a transaction facilitator for them and preparing those documents for them to sign, now you would need to recad because you're now providing brokerage services to them.
I do want to touch on a part of your question, and that was the licensee did not do things that you felt were correct, and you had them like go back and fix whatever happened. As a qualifying broker, that's actually required for you to do. If you see that there is a violation or you suspect there's a violation, you're supposed to do everything you can to mitigate what has happened. You can't go back in time and fix it. If something had to be done on Tuesday and it's now Friday, we can't go back to Tuesday, and we realize that. But under the broker supervision rule, it says that a qualifying broker has to do everything they can do to mitigate a violation if they know that it has happened.
Biggest thing was estimated closing statement, all those forms. I just wanted them in place just in case there was an
Sure.
issue, because she didn't
Sure.
think that those were needed because she was the owner and the buyer wasn't being represented. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
clarification.
And I always say, when in doubt, just give the disclosures, just throw them out there. It's not going to hurt anything, for sure.
What else is out there? Anything. Well, not anything, but I know this is a lot of information, and as you all have questions, again, please reach out to us. Call, email, text, do what you have to do, but make sure you get the answers that you need before you move forward. It never fails that we have respondents at the agency, and they sit there and tell the commissioners, I wish I had have called. Because it was an easy answer, we could have given it, but they made a presumption. They moved forward based on that presumption and made a mistake, and then here they sit, and it's too late at that point. So call. It's not a bother. It's not a pester at all. We have social media. We have all these tools and technologies. Reach out to us. Get the information that you need. I would much rather see you here as opposed to Montgomery. Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question on inactive realtors, okay? Are they with the brokerage still, or are they just, because if they're inactive and paying annually and they're not showing up on your website?
In order to be licensed, they have to be under a brokerage.
That's what I thought.
So they're inactive. They're still under a brokerage. They can't provide any services.
But it would show up on the website. is my
It would.
question.
It would show up as an inactive person.
Because I was just checking while we were
Yes.
talking.
Good.
And I have an inactive licensee.
Okay.
And she was asking me if she had paid. And she says when she goes in, it shows that she paid. But I go in and she's not showing up under me,
Yeah,
even
sure.
though she's inactive.
But we need to,
Note that.
we can search that for you.
I appreciate it. That's,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
thanks.
If you write that down for me, I'll check it when I get to the office, and then you can put your number on there and I'll give you a call.
If you do not have your company name prominently displayed on your advertisements, including social media, then it'll be a violation. And that's always been the case. It's not new. We adopted a rule that defined what the word prominently meant about 18 months ago. So it's always been in effect that your company name has to be prominently displayed on your advertisements. It needs to be the largest font on the advertisement. The whole company name needs to be, the whole company name needs to be bigger than any of the other words on the advertisement. And if it's on social, if it's on
For sale.
if it's on social media, then also it needs to not be below the see more line. So a lot of times you'll see they put the company name in a hashtag, but it's way underneath, and the consumer would have to go searching. When we say the word prominently, we mean the consumer needs to take a glance at that advertisement and immediately know, oh, that's XYZ company that I'm dealing with.
one closeout note. So, I'm sorry, if you have questions, I want to, yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, she's in the back, I'm sorry.
I just had real quick a question about the advertising with the team leads on social media. Could you repeat that, please?
The team leader, or, well, there doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be the team leader's name in the team advertisement, but somewhere within the advertisement, there needs to be at least the name of one team member. So if, let's just say you were posting on Facebook and you're a member of the team, well, your name's already there because it's your Facebook post.
So that would make it, that would be fine. You don't have to put anybody else's actual name.
Yes, ma'am.
I've heard this conversation before, and I'm just repeating it for myself and for clarification. But when you, for example, Facebook, social media, you have the opportunity, like your Facebook page itself could have your company name or, your real estate company name in it. You can check in at your company office so that all that shows up top. That's good. I now understand before the see more line, I get that. It needs to be there as well. But on the graphic itself, like on the picture of the house itself or with the picture of whatever on the graphic, my understanding is that if we put our name, be it agent or team, the brokerage name has to be there as well on that. In other words, my rule myself is just if I'm going to put my name on something, my brokerage name has got to be there prominently. And the conversation I've listened to before in similar panels like this is because that graphic can be separated from the verbiage in the post. It can be shared and all the other caption stuff not go with it. Somebody could screenshot it. It can be separated. Is that, I know I've heard these conversations before, but we seem to get a little different interpretation sometimes.
If it's all together with the post and you can see it all together, then we wouldn't distinguish the graphic being separate from the rest of the post. So as long as somewhere in that post, the company's name is displayed prominently, then we're fine. We wouldn't isolate the graphic.
Me say I'm her agent, like, oh, I love this picture, so I screen grab the picture and I share it.
Now it's your violation.
Yeah.
Yep. 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 So now it would be your violation if you're not in that post putting your company's name. Oh.
Graphic itself. That graphic is separated. It no.
Right.
How do you
set it back in?
You'd have to intentionally
It's-
separate it, right?
Yeah. At the point that it was posted separately, that's where the violation would occur. Not the original post that also contains the company name prominently.
That's right. I want to share your thing out there. Well, now I have to make sure, well, in my caption, I'm gonna be different.
So the way that you guys share each other's advertisings, like across brokerages, you probably have some kind of MLS IDX rules or something that, is there, you can just advertise someone else's listing without giving them credit or, those kinds of things. We really don't touch on that.
Where we would touch is if it's misleading to consumer.
Right.
So if you shared somebody else's post, like their listing, and made it look like it was your listing, then that would be misinformation. And
And a general rule with this, if you don't understand the tech, don't tech.
That's my problem.
Let's start there.
So if you put your brokerage in there, your brokerage is not no longer there.
Yeah,
Am I still allowed to?
No.
Consumer share?
it's not your post, so we're just going after the person that's publishing the advertisement.
And I know we've got to go because I've got the hammer behind me.
Yeah.
But with all the changes that we've talked about today, I know you all are concerned about the book. So we are having a conversation with the commissioners right now about how we're going to proceed with reprinting the books. I know some folks like books, others don't. But what I can tell you is that right now, all the changes that we have will be listed inside our app. So if you don't have the commission's app, get that app. The rules are in there. The actual law changes are there. We'll have it on our Facebook page, also on the commission's website, our official website. It'll be there as well. We don't know yet specifically how we're going to navigate the reprinting of books. But again, this is paper. There's a bill attached to it. It's a lot. And so we don't know how many books we're going to reprint. But I will say that you all will absolutely have the access to updated information. I say that because with printed books, right? They're printed this year. A rule happens next week. Guess what? That book is now inaccurate. And I don't want folks to use their real estate Bible with, the Old Testament. We've moved forward a little bit, so we're trying to get there. If you have questions about that, let us know, but we will publish the information once we've solidified our deal and we know how many books will be printed, when they'll be available. We're thinking about 2 printings. 3 years is a long time to have inaccurate books out there. So we'll probably print current changes, maybe this fall, next year. And then in 2028, we'll have another printing, and that'll be current. But again, if you have questions, reach out to us. I promise I won't talk anymore.
No, that's great. They're not monsters. Go figure, right? Thank you guys so much. Thank you, brokers. It's amazing to have this great conversation. We really appreciate y'all coming up here. It helps us do better and be better. And we can't thank you enough for that. So, yes, sir. No updates at this point. We will get to that. We do have a board meeting coming up, so soon. Okay, thank you. And at this point, we are adjourned.